Hello. So we've learned yesterday that it looks likely that there's going to be an early general election. I'm joined by Gavin Smart, the Deputy Chief Executive of CIH, just to ask him what really this is going to mean for housing. Gavin, was this a surprise?
I think it was. I think the fact that the political commentators, lots of politicians, Conservative Party politicians, were surprised by it means that although there was a bit of chatter about whether or not the Prime Minister might take advantage of the poll numbers, it wasn't really very certain until the very last moment. And I think really journalists only and political commentators only really knew for sure at the point in which the press conference was announced yesterday. So I think it has to count as a surprise.
Yeah. What's your immediate reaction of what this could mean for housing? Obviously, it's been an interesting period, hasn't it? We've had the housing white paper, and housing seems to have got back on the agenda. What do you think it could actually mean for the sector?
Well, I think a general election is always the opportunity for politicians, political parties, and everyone else to rethink things across the board. So I'm sure housing will be the subject of debate in the general election. I'm sure that parties already know that that's going to be the case, and they'll be looking for new and distinctive policy positions. So I think there's every chance that housing will feature, and there's every chance to try to advance some of the kind of agendas that CIH has been very keen to talk about recently, about the variety of housing supply, about regeneration, about standards in the private sector. I think all of those things could play a part in the election, and we'll certainly be pushing to make sure that is the case.
I mean, barely had the announcement been made yesterday, and already all of the debate seems to be framed in terms of Brexit, all of the early coverages on Brexit. Is there a danger, you think, that housing and indeed other domestic issues are kind of overshadowed by Brexit?
I think there has to be, because Brexit is the big issue. But I was listening to some political commentators speaking yesterday, and they said it's almost impossible, actually, to run a single topic general election campaign. It doesn't work that way. I think Ted Heath famously in the second general election in 1954 said, this election is about who runs Britain and nothing else, but it turned out to be all sorts of things, as well as who runs Britain. Brexit is the big issue of the day, and will certainly dominate a lot of the debate, but other policy agendas will get a look in as well. And it's our job to make the case for housing, and we know that housing is an issue that politicians and the general public care about a lot.
Yeah, and you mentioned there before, Gavin, about the fact that it's an opportunity, isn't it, to rethink housing policy really for all political parties, including the ruling party, the Conservatives. What sort of things could those parties be thinking about now?
Well, I think the debate around the private sector has changed. I think there's more interest now in looking at what else can be done to address what CIH has already identified as the two greater variation in the standards of property and standards of management. There are questions again about what more can be done to enable local authorities to build homes again, and there's the perennial conversation about supply overall. So I think there are plenty of areas where there is room for change, there's room for manoeuvre, and we also know that we've got institutional change. We've got a new housing regulator, we've got a slightly reshaped Homes Communities Agency. Plenty of opportunity, I think, for new and different debates.
And there's a question, isn't there, here about, we do seem to have in Gavin Barwell, the sector seems to think, and we've certainly said this, we have a minister who seems to be willing to listen and has very clearly shown that. Is there a concern, you think, that we may lose Gavin Barwell as our housing minister again when things just appear to have been settling in a positive way?
Well, it's too early to say for sure, I think. We don't know the result of the election, we don't know anything yet, but it's certainly the case, I think. Gavin Barwell has impressed many people in housing with his grasp of his brief, his ability to understand the detail, the fact that he is willing to engage in debates. Listen, he has been a really excellent housing minister. Most elections see the formation of a new cabinet and a new ministerial team. Some people stay in the same jobs, some people move on. Everyone moves on if there's a change of party in control. So there has to be a risk that we'll have a different housing minister, but we can't know at this point what's likely to happen.
Okay, thanks, Gavin. You can check more reaction on our website, cih.org. Thank you for watching.